Yet again, peeps. Just checking right now. Are you guys here? You guys sign in? Are you guys signing in? Are we starting up? Are we starting up here? Just posting this stuff. You know how it is. You know how it is. Who's here? If you're here, put some stuff in the chat. If you're here, put some stuff in the chat right now. Yep. 6 people. We're starting up. Crew, COVID Cabal gang. Drop some comments, peeps. How we doing? How are we feeling? You feeling good? Are we feeling good? Tay Sims Drums, how are you? How are you doing? Tonight's wine, very nice wine. Aglianico del Volture. Got this one in Italy as well. I'll show you guys it. It's kind of hard to read anyway. Titolo. Very nice, very nice. Cheers. How are you guys doing? What you guys drinking? Good evening. Elvis, good to see you. Annie, cheers. Cheers to you too. Well, all right. All right. Yeah. I'm loving the gifts. All right, we got 20 people here. That's good enough for us to start up. Pat, do you drink any hot wine? Any suggestions? Mulled wine? Yes, I do drink it. Although I don't make it. Where I've had it, I have it usually in Europe, like when I'm in Poland. Back in the day when I traveled back in Poland, yeah, I would have it. Central Europe, it's very popular in like Germany, Poland, a lot of those countries. And it's good. They add all sorts of spices to it, usually like orange, lemon, cloves, allspice. It can be very nice. They also do in Poland. They do cooked beer as well, hot beer, similar kind of spices and stuff. It's interesting, you know. It's not my go-to though. Drinking olive oil and vinegar. Good stuff. Cream oranges and egg shape after my workout. That's very good. Very, very good. I had a protein shake at Attila's today. All right, let's get into this. So, today's title, fuck yous. I think a lot of you guys know why that is. I think a lot of you guys know why we're talking about Joyzy right now. Why would we be talking about Joyzy? Well, we got the election, and we had the election stolen. So I'm going to start off with this, because I just want to talk about some things about New Jersey and kind of what you can expect happening. So I'm a South Jersey guy, more outside of Philadelphia, not so much. I know North Jersey better now as an adult, partially because of my time living in New York, but it is very different up there. It's very different and similar. I think to outsiders, people would think it's similar, but there are some different vibes. The state's kind of divided into, but playfully speaking, and North Jersey has probably, certainly twice the population, maybe slightly more than South Jersey. South Jersey usually gets the short end of the stick as a result. Anyway, New Jersey's got a very interesting culture, and it's a very defined culture, and you have to credit a lot of that to the Italian Americans who populate the state heavily and have influenced the culture of the state. So one of the things that frustrates me, and I know a lot of you guys are from all over the place, and I mean no disrespect to anybody, but I find it really tedious when I see like good old boys and people even in the Midwest, it's usually the good old boys in the South though, who go and just kind of rant about Northeast blue states, etc. I think it's just kind of stupid. I mean, I'm the first to admit that there are very different cultures, but there's this sort of chip on their shoulder about being better. And we all know Jersey's the best. Just joking. Just joking. We all know though. I mean, we're all Americans. We're all Americans. And what I really, if I can hammer any point home for people here, it's that do not let the media shape your perception of how the rest of the country is. They have been trying to divide this country. I said it before on these COVID cabals. I'm going to say it again. People really need to grasp it. They have been trying to create the impression that there's red states and there's blue states, and then there's a handful of states that are heavily divided, and that those states are all that matters, and it's a big bloodbath, and you gotta, whoever's gonna win those states. And of course, gradually, because of demographics, the blue states are gonna win, right? That's the whole thing. It's all bullshit. Go back from election after election after election, and you will see that the country did not really vote monolithically at any time after the late 1800s. From the late 1800s onward, shortly after Reconstruction onward, you saw this country would vote. You might have some regional allegiances, but fundamentally, good candidate, good country would vote for it. The differences were not really that great. Now, some people say, well, demographics, since the demographics changed, all that's been different. And that is also really overstated, because you can look at the electronic changes, the electronic voting changes, and you can see that this stuff is massively, massively amplified. Okay? And of course, there's a lot of fraud that was going on in inner cities, etc. But look, the point I'm trying to make here is that the country has not been as divided as people think, but they've been trying to make the division so it seemed that way. But I can definitely tell you this. Since Trump, that has really started to change. And with that last election, you can say whatever you want. You can argue with me about whatever you want past elections. Since Trump pantsed these fuckers and revealed who they were, there has not been the division that people imagine in this country. Hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And I've been telling people for a while, Jersey is not a blue state. It's not a blue state. It is a corrupt state. It's not a blue state. It's very different. Very different things. It might even lean red, but it's definitely a purple state. No question whatsoever about it. This state has elected Republican governors over and over and over again. You can say, well, this or that or whatever. This is a very patriotic state. I can barely walk anywhere in this state without seeing American flags. It's a very patriotic state. And I can tell you also, you can barely walk anywhere around the state now and not see Trump flags. And you can barely walk anywhere around the state now and not see Jack flags, Jack signs. So people talk about like, and everybody was so fixated on Virginia, and I get it, especially because all the conservatives in the South want to get their good old Southern state back. I got it. But New Jersey might be a tiny state, but it's actually a pretty big state in terms of population. And it's a pretty patriotic state. I would just make a note that with the exception of Florida, I mean, Jersey was one of the biggest states with people arrested. I think you get it. It's a state. There's a lot of people here who supported President Trump, and there are lot of people here that are done with this crap. And so while we have in Philadelphia, we have mandates everywhere, and while we have in New York City mandates everywhere, in Jersey there's no mandates. Now they have been doing things for school kids, which hasn't affected me, but there's zero going to any business. There's zero requirements statewide. But we knew that was going to change because of Project Veritas. We knew what they were going to do. So Jersey, people are like, they have this conception of the state like they're just a bunch of buffoons. And, you know, we do get a little crazy, right? But we have a lot of spirit. There's a lot of defiant energy in this state. And I'm telling you, you tell people here that they have to do something and they're not going to comply. It's different than in Connecticut. New England has a lot of that WASP sort of, you know, we just got to go along with it, you know, do what we're told. Everybody, you know, I have to go to Connecticut regularly for some stuff, and people are remarkably polite driving there. Jersey, you know, you could make your jokes, but the Italian influence is very much there. People don't like to be told what to do. People don't like to be stepped on here. And you can say what you want about that Italian flavor of Americanism, but it's very defiant. It's very defiant. And look, these aren't like losers. There's a lot of working class people here, and there's a lot of rich people here. It's a very rich state. It's probably I think it's the second richest state in the country. These are people with money who don't like being told what to do. So, as we see here in the chat here, 80,000 chanting "Let's go Brandon" at MetLife Stadium the other day in Armpit of New Jersey shows the truth about Jersey people right now. Yeah, and like I was about to say, we get that people were really fixated on Virginia, really excited about it, the flip. I'm excited about it too, but people were like, "Oh well, Jersey's not going to flip, so let's just forget about it." What are you talking about? Ask people in New Jersey on the ground. Ask them on the ground. The state did flip, and we have the usual shenanigans in the inner cities. You know, and we have some Project Veritas stuff indicating that as well, right? We have some Project Veritas stuff indicating that there was, you know, that they were letting people who shouldn't vote. But beyond all that stuff, beyond all that, Bergen County, Burlington County. Now, I'm going to talk about these two real quick. Bergen County is across the river from New York City to the north. So, you know, if you remember anything from like Chris Christie, time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee, you know, that Fort Lee, New Jersey, it's near the border with New York. It's a very, very wealthy area. A lot of people from there would work in New York City. It's more conservative, but it's very affluent. So plausibly in the past elections, you could say that there were, you know, where there's money in status, there's often people who are voting on the left because that's a lot of what it offers. But Bergen County is not like super, super liberal place. You could say it's pretty moderate, and it went very, very heavily for Jack in this last election. We had a 3 a.m. vote dump. They said this many votes left, and then suddenly 40-something thousand votes appeared out of nowhere. Didn't change the percentage of total reporting in, but flipped the change in the county vote. So that's very suspect and needs to be investigated. But Burlington County, I can tell you, very close by to me. I'm not in Burlington County. It's right to the north of me, though. Drive through it all the time. It's a Republican county. I mean, come on. It's a Republican county. And yeah, they stole it in 2020 like they stole a lot of things. And you have this fucking loser, Andy Kim, who didn't win the race. They had him win by like 2 points. He didn't win the race. They flipped it again in the middle of the night like Bergen. But here's the thing, they flipped it, and the number of votes in didn't change. They just changed the allocation. So it was just the typical vote swapping. So before you had 54% Jack, 47%, something like that. It was something like that, 46% Murphy. They flipped it, 51% Murphy, like 47% Jack. It was a flip of over 10,000 votes. And remember, the margins are not very big right now. The margins right now of victory is something like 13,000. So they've easily stolen, just with that, 50,000 votes. Now, I know other stories coming in of people in my area. You have 15 people go in to vote, and 4 of them, they come in with their sample ballot, right? They're registered voters. They go in to vote. Oh, you're not on the rolls. By the way, guys, maybe you remember, that happened to me last election when I tried to vote in New Jersey. So I couldn't vote in New Jersey. I ended up voting in New York City. This is it's a travesty, and this is the kind of fraud that goes on throughout the state. So they have to fill out provisional ballots. So I know this is the question for some of you guys. Will Jack contest results? Yes, he will contest results. And I can tell you guys that I know that for a fact. It's not speculation. But there's some optics here. And he's going to take a gradual diplomatic approach and focus on the facts. And look, let other people here, let us amplify some of these issues. But he's going to take a very sober approach. But he's going to fight. He's going to fight, and he's smart to fight, because if he doesn't fight, he's going to be hated even more than Murphy. But here's the thing, and I'm going to use this as a segue. I felt for a while that New Jersey was going to be a pivotal force in all this stuff, in large part because of the guys at Attilas, Frank and Ian. They are the toughest fighters for business liberties in the entire United States. A little South Jersey gym 10 minutes away from me. The toughest fighters in this entire country. Again, I don't want to hear any shit about, blue state, fuck you, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. A lot of fighters here. Spirit of America is all over this country, and it's in New Jersey too. They're heroes. Exactly, Annie. And they don't simply play defense, they go on offense. And they told Murphy himself, we're going to hold you responsible. We're going to hold you responsible for all the death and destruction in New Jersey, whether you win or not. They have tried to put these guys in prison. I don't think people understand really what's been going on. They've been hit with lawsuit after lawsuit. They've been hit with, they tried to break a corporation so that they could go after all their personal assets, so that legally they could take every single thing that Frank and Ian own, with the exception of $500 or something like that. That they would be allowed to take everything they own because they pierced the corporation. If you guys understand how it works, how they managed to survive this, Attilas Gym is free to go to. It's free to go to. There's no gym membership. They have a company called Rock Bottom Nutrition. And Rock Bottom Nutrition sells protein shakes, supplements, merchandise. I always make sure I get something every time I go. It's a separate company. So that's how they make money. They don't make money through the gym. And that's how they got around the mandates. It's completely legal. They figured this out themselves. Their lawyers wouldn't help them. They figured it out themselves. I want you to understand how resourceful they are. They tried to pierce that corporation to collect fines for them running a gym. It's completely separate businesses. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing. And that would mean that they could have all their assets taken. These people are fighters. They're real fighters. They're threatened with prison time. They don't care. They keep going back. They keep laughing in their face. Go do something about it. Go do something about it. Their own police department chief going after them, trying to get them. Go do something about it. I go down to the gym there, pickup truck in the back. It's detailed. It says Murphy's favorite gym. That's what you have to do. You have to laugh at them. But I want to put this all in perspective. Okay, I felt that New Jersey was going to be a big part of this for a while. But whatever happens with these with the next few weeks, months maybe in New Jersey, with is there going to go to an audit? What's going to come up? What's going to happen? I mean, I am very, very confident. I am very, very confident in us winning. But I'm also very aware of their corruption in the process. It's a very big mafia state. Are there going to be gyms? Are there going to be gyms? What is going to end up happening with the whole thing? Are they going to be able to are they going to be able to get him back in power? What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen with that. And no, I'm not going to bet anything on it. And the reason I'm not going to bet on it is because you're dealing, I'm not stupid. I had a friend who bet, and he was telling me with Virginia, when it was 98-2, right? I hadn't closed out the market. He's like, should I close out? I'm like, yeah, close out immediately. Because I didn't know what they were going to do with Fairfax County. I don't bet anything on elections now. And the reason is because when they're stealing elections, it doesn't matter if you're right. What matters is they steal, you lose. Like, if I thought we had a fair election, I would have bet full money on Jack. But we don't have a fair election, as we can tell based on our situation. So I'm not, why do that when you could, put money in the crypto, right? We'll talk about that stuff a little bit. But the bigger point here, is, one second here. The bigger point here is with what's going on and what's going to happen in the state, we don't know if we're going to win the governorship back in the process. And I think when I say that, some people feel like demoralized from it. What do you mean you don't know if we're going to win? I don't know what the process is going to look like, but that's not the point. The power is in the people. The power is in the people. That's what we have to remember. That's from the very beginning in the Constitution, the power comes from the people. If we fight this, it's not about winning. It's about making them pay for every single bit of fraud that they do. It's raising the stakes. So you go from a situation where, okay, they steal it at 3 a.m. You don't do anything. Well, people are like, well, maybe they did win it. You reveal the fraud. Okay, well, then the judicial system doesn't deal with it. Well, then the judicial system becomes a target. When I say target, I mean that the people are going to start, I don't mean it in like a violent sense, I just mean that the people are going to stop finding any legitimacy in this process. That's what's going to happen. So even if Murphy, in the end, manages through corruption, buying off official after official after official, even if he manages to do that, then what happens? He has as much legitimacy in the state as Biden. So when he comes in and says, all your kids now have to, get vaccinated, or, all the businesses have to shut down, I don't think Attila's Gym is going to be the only business in the state that says, fuck you. You're going to start to see, and this is the point, and I'm going to segue this into all the vax stuff. People need to really get their head out of their ass with this. It is not worth it. We will get through this, but I just hear this stuff from people, like, well, I had to get it, for work. I had to get it for this. And then they have symptoms and they don't feel great. It's like, what do people imagine in their head? It's like they know it's bad, but there's like this dissonance, like, well, I just have to do it. No, you don't have to do it. Make them fire you. Make them fire you. Make them put it in writing. Make them escort you out the building if it's a physical thing. And then sue them. You make them pay for every single inch. I gotta tell you something. You know the book War and Peace? Amazing book. I highly, highly recommend people read it. If you got the time to read it, it's a masterpiece. It has that reputation for a reason. One of the things that Tolstoy talks about, and he was just such a higher level thinker. When he talks about the big overview of the battles between Napoleon and the Russians, you had the Russian general Kuznetsov. And Kuznetsov was critiqued heavily by the Russian media and political establishment for not really trying to fight Napoleon, for not trying to have pitched battles. The whole thing is really, really... Kuznetsov, though, and Tolstoy talks about this. He talks about Kuznetsov and how Kuznetsov was a genius with it. Because what he understood was that that the French army was dissolving on its own. And that by simply staying near the French army, that was all that had to happen. In fact, the Russian army itself was destroyed by the same forces that destroyed the French army. That there was this movement of people from west to east, and then there was an inevitable movement back from east to west. The Russians didn't destroy Napoleon. Napoleon's overreach destroyed Napoleon. The lack of supplies, the weather. This was something that was happening on a deeper level. And so when it comes to all this stuff, it's about making them pay for every little inch. It's about making them, this is this fighting, you could call it a fighting retreat if you want to call it that. But the point here is not that you're losing. Just because you're doing a fighting retreat, it doesn't mean you're losing. When you're drawing them out into territory that they can't possibly defend themselves in. This is called a trap. That's what a trap is. You make them overextend themselves. If they steal an election, you put it all in the public eye, you fight them to the very end with this, and if they have to use force and bribery to stay in office, then let's go Brandon, right? We have a situation where they have no legitimacy and more people wake up. It's the same thing with this Jersey election. It's the same thing with your job. They say you have to get it. Well, okay. I would not recommend quitting. Let them fire you. Let them fire you. And then sue them. You can set it up in the right way. You can get everything in writing. You can make them escort you out of the building. And then you can sue them. Do you have any idea how much energy this costs? And you can videotape it, and you can post it on social media. This stuff hurts them. It hurts them so much. I'm not even talking about the higher-ups. They don't care about you. But the people who have to do it, this wears them out emotionally. You wear people out emotionally. You make them pay. It has a cost. And the thing is, that burning of capital stops them from being able to do more and more and more. Because people don't want to be around it. People don't want to be a part of it. This isn't about being violent. It's never been about that. It's never been about being violent. All you have to do is not comply. You're an immovable force, and they have to push you. And that takes energy, and they don't have a lot of it because they get their energy from you directly operating against them and you falling into their plans and everything. So But I really just, if I can impress this upon people, it's not worth it. Take some time off if that's what happens. If you get fired, you're going to be all right. You're going to survive. You know, if you have a business and you have people who are saying, "Oh, well, you know, you need to have it. You need to get the job, otherwise, you know, I'm not going to do business with you." Well, let's let your revenue collapse 50%. Let it collapse 80%. What happens afterwards? What happens in the next few years? Every day there's more and more evidence of this stuff. Every day there's more and more evidence about how it harms people. And the long-term effects are starting to look pretty bad. And these kind of questions like, well, what supplements should I take to deal with it? Don't fucking give me that stuff. This is really stupid. Supplements are not equipped to deal with this. They can help it. They can mitigate it. And if you made the mistake already, look, don't keep going with it. It's tough for a lot of people. I mean, look, for my business, I did this before. I started earlier with it. You know, I didn't want to be under control of other people, so I had my own business. And that it's easy for you to say just get fired. It's not like you've ever lost all your money and livelihood and had to beg for money on the internet. Look, everybody can make their own choices. You can make your own choices. But at the end of the day, it's your health. And there's a lot indicating that this could severely could really harm your health. If you get the real thing, severely harm your health. Is any of it worth years of your life? How many years of your life is it worth? People, you need to think in these terms when you make these decisions. It's not easy for me to say. I am very content. I have lost a ton. I've lost a ton. Okay, in the main difference. What has he lost? I lost a lot of money last year. I'm currently under federal I have an indictment against me. I have trial. I may have to use all of my money for that. So what have I lost? I've lost a lot. Everybody's sacrificing things here. But if you can go in here and you can sound like a victim and you can complain, my business does that well. My business is doing that well because for years I didn't make any money. For years I was grinding and doing the internal work to try to get to this point. You can make all the excuses you want. Look, own your decision. If you want to get it, then get it. I have friends who get it. I mean, I know that there are people in here who are listening to this who have mixed feelings about what I'm saying. And look, I love you guys, and I just want people to be okay. I don't want people who I care about to get hurt. And I can tell you that it is a no-brainer for me. It would be a no-brainer to lose all of my business income because I trust myself. I can rebuild. I can rebuild a lot of things. I don't know if I can rebuild my health with this thing. I don't know. You know, he probably is trolling. Who knows? But the point is, it doesn't matter. It's a thing. It's a question that people actually have. It's something that's very common. It's easy for you to say. Make your own choice and own the consequences of your choice. I'm not really judging you because I get everybody's got difficult decisions to make. I'm just telling you it's not worth it. This war will end, but there's no guarantees you'll be here at the end of it and there's no guarantees you're going to be here in a good position health-wise at the end of it if you take this shit. That's what I'm trying to impress upon people. It's not worth it. If you took it, that's done. What's done is done. Do everything you possibly can to try to get your health back in line. We are here for you. And I am very optimistic. There are people who are working on solutions for it. There are people who are working on solutions. So do everything you possibly can to get your health in a good position, and pray to God. I hope that we are going to be able to have things that's going to reverse any damage that's accrued. But don't get more of them. It's already the case in Israel that people have to get a third one to be considered. I mean, it's going to keep going on. You can make the mistake. But don't keep making the mistake, because they don't care about you. They're trying to kill you. That's the point of it. You don't really get much in return, and you don't get much at all in the long term. So, anyway, that's some stuff there. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, I got this question. One of you guys mentioned this earlier. Excuse me, with my hands on the thing. One sec. One sec. I want to make sure. Okay, yeah, there's two more things I wanted to say. So, the first thing I guess I'll address is the people here who have talked about, not here, but the people on Twitter who talked about Trump. And they made all these big kind of complaints about Trump, like, oh, well, it's time for DeSantis. Trump, we have to be done with Trump. We have to be done with Trump. Trump's, he's just been, it's too much. It's too much. He was too much. We need to move on to somebody. Seriously, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Where does this even come from? Honestly, where does it come from? It's like, guy wins a race in Virginia for governor, and suddenly it's like, that was the problem. The problem was Trump. That was the problem. It was Trump. And now that Trump's out of the picture, what the fuck are you talking about? The reason that Youngkin won in Virginia is because of Trump. It's because of Trump. That's what it's about. It's because of Trump. And it's because people are still pissed off about the 2020 election. And it's because Trump is letting this stuff draw out. He's drawing them out into the open. He's drawing them out into the open. And he's making them reveal themselves. And because of that approach, rather than fighting directly, by making them get drawn out into a situation in unfriendly territory, that's why you're starting to see Virginia, New Jersey, no question. And by the way, there's no doubt that more people have been voting, Republican in these things, in these races. But also keep in mind that those states were stolen before. And a lot of what you're seeing is actually closer to a reflection of what actually happened in the 2020 election. People talk about like, oh, well, he just gave up on us. Of all the people who could say that, I would be one to say that. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I'm not saying it out of some sort of blind sense of loyalty. Like, I've considered it. But it's very apparent what he's doing. It is a smart strategy. If he had fought directly, at that point in time, the American people were not ready. We were ready, but the American people weren't ready. They did not understand the full extent of what we were up against. And they did not understand the extent of the fraud. They didn't have all the full information. So rather than fight for that position, he pulled back. And we are doing this decentralized asymmetric warfare pattern where they got the position. They didn't think they were going to get it. They thought he was going to fight to keep the presidency, the administrative presidency. and they're being drawn out into the open, and they're getting undermined dramatically. This is by no means over. Trump didn't concede. Keep paying attention to what's happening. Okay, it's being set up for that point when the American public is ready, when they are ready for some moves to happen on a big level, and it's coming soon. Igor Demchenko, do you guys see this today? Igor Demchenko was just arrested. Who's Igor Demchenko? Igor Demchenko is a Ukrainian guy who was responsible for the creation of the Steele dossier. Remember the whole thing, fabrication, Trump, Russia. This follows very, very top official in Clinton circles. This follows off of the arrest of Sussman, Michael Sussman, a few weeks ago. Which, by the way, I said this before, I'll say it again. Michael Sussman was charged with one charge. He was indicted on one charge, which means he's cooperating. All these people are connected to Clinton. And I will remind you of Trump at the debate 2016 when Clinton was saying, it's a good thing that you're not in charge of the justice system. And Trump said, because you'd be in jail. You guys can say whatever you want about this. A lot of people doubt it. They don't believe it. Well, okay. You can ask yourselves, go ahead actually and ask Biden. Go ask Biden, go ask Pelosi, who say over and over again they need to close Guantanamo. Guantanamo needs to be closed right now. You have Catherine Herridge, investigative journalist, right? She's at CBS, trying to figure out the same thing. Why is the Biden administration, Pelosi, trying to shut down Guantanamo, but meanwhile, Guantanamo is being expanded? They're expanding the court facilities. They're expanding the record rooms. They're getting a state-of-the-art geriatric hospital. What's going on at Guantanamo? Ask Biden, tell Biden to shut down Guantanamo immediately. There's no question that this hasn't happened yet. I mean, there's people out there in the Q community who are kind of nuts, and they talk about like Michael Jackson Jr., JFK Jr., Elvis, a lot of really bizarre stuff. And a lot of people think it's already all happened and we're just waiting for it, enjoy the show. No, this is a war. We're going through it. But you will see that arrest that will shock the world. And I don't think it's very far off. It could be December, it could be January. We're getting there. We're moving forward. A lot of guys, especially younger guys, they like direct action. You know, in the military, it's a common thing that a lot of the new recruits, they're either scared or they want to just go right off into and get the shit blown out of themselves. Trump is a really good strategist. He's actually an excellent genius strategist. People will start to understand exactly what's been happening. They'll start to understand in time. But when I hear people talk about just absolutely, it really is just so retarded. Like talking about, like, we just can't have Trump. He was bad. You know, does anybody understand? Does anybody even understand for a second how bad off we would be? We wouldn't even be having this conversation. They had a planned nuclear exchange. They had planned to keep us, to launch the pandemic early during Clinton's time and keep us inside forever until we would have had 95% of the population taking the vaccine. They had planned our complete destruction. Our complete destruction. We would be in FEMA camps. It's like the lack of gratitude people have, and it's not even just lack of gratitude, it's just the stupidity. And honestly, you know, you start to get to the point of like, why do we even bother trying? You can understand why nobody wants to save us. How many of us really deserve to be saved? We're self-centered. What finger have you lifted to do things? Trump didn't do anything. What have you done? What have you done? I'm not about blind loyalty. I'm not about blind loyalty. Well, look, what about the money Trump raised that he never spent to fight the fraud? There's two answers to this, and they may or may not be mutually exclusive. The first is that actually the RNC raised the money, and the RNC didn't spend it, and that's because the RNC is a captured operation. There was something like 50 million, I think. If that's right, you can correct me on the exact numbers, but if I recall, it was around 50 million, maybe a little bit more, that was raised to combat the fraud in the election, and the RNC was not on board and didn't do anything about it. And you can blame Trump for that. I don't think that he would talk very often about why aren't people doing anything about it in the RNC? Where's the support? We all saw it. I saw it firsthand that there was no real support from the RNC. So I don't specifically blame Trump for that. Now, I will say maybe at a certain point, this was kind of I'm still of the opinion it was a sting operation, in the sense of there was an element of baiting them into it, or at least we knew they were going to do it. I do feel like the truth, for the most part, at least the essential aspects of the truth are going to come out. And, Arizona's not done. People keep thinking it's done. That was just a basic recount. I'm not talking about the full audit. I'm saying that what they put in that little public hearing, now you go through all the forensics, the kinematics, going through the paper. Okay, this is not paper from the right place. The point of all this stuff is that we're moving forward, and maybe it's too slow for some people, but I don't appreciate these accusations people throw. If you don't understand what's happening from somebody who laid it all on the line, if you don't understand it, if you don't understand why he's done it, that's okay. Withhold judgment. For the moment, withhold judgment. And you will, over time, come to understand. I believe that. And you can disagree if you want, but I'll remind people, look, if you're out doing things, if you're moving the needle, and you wanna complain, that's fine. If you're out doing things, then that's fine. I get it. You don't have to agree on everything, but I don't think that you should. I take him at his word. I feel it. I feel it energetically. He hasn't left, but some things take longer, and really, he's waiting on us. You have all these people who are still looking for a savior. It really is about us. They're helping us. They're helping us to liberate ourselves. But we are our own liberators. People got to come to terms with that. And that's why when you hear people say, well, I had to do it. We're our own liberators, at the end of the day. So, guys, I think we're going to see some exciting stuff happen. Paul mentioned this the other day, and I think he's totally right with it. We are in for a month of, I think December is the next big month. December is the next big month. Not that I don't think big things are going to happen throughout November, but if I had to guess, I would say December is when things really start to come out in the open. Maybe January, but December is when we start to really get everything out in the open, which everyone's waiting for. So, but we'll keep talking. Things are going to heat up. But look, This is slack tide right now. The tide's turning, but don't confuse the tide turning with the tide having completely turned. That doesn't mean high tide. Okay? I think the first big arrest prediction is going to be Clinton. All signs are pointing to that with the prior arrest from Durham, but it could be anything else. It just seems like Durham's picking off the people who were in charge of fabricating the Steele dossier and everything, related to that and the fabrications against Trump. So it would seem logical that if it's Clinton's lawyer, Clinton's associate, is going to work its way up to Clinton in time. So I would put that out there, Hillary Clinton. And look, guys, I appreciate the questions. I will say this because I don't want to seem like a sycophant. I've mentioned this before. One of the things that's very difficult for people is the Trump vaccine situation, and why has he supported it? What does that mean? Well, first off, I would say that it's not like he's been out every day trying to do things. Although I'm not trying to make excuses. He has come out whenever he's asked about it. He says they're great. People should get them. I don't like this stuff. It pisses me off. I won't lie that it pisses me off. I don't think it's constructive. However, I will say this. Some food for thought. First off, him moving forward with getting the vaccine out there makes perfect sense to me. I get that. That doesn't confuse me. In the sense that it was so baked into public consciousness that there needed to be a vaccine. And he gave us indications that, no, you really didn't need one, right, with hydroxychloroquine, and then you got sick, and you got Regeneron, etc., telling us about these alternative treatments, getting attacked for it, too. So I get that he rushed it also because they wanted to make us wait so that people would get really desperate to have things open up again. And the longer it took, then that would completely shut down the country, and that would allow more of these corporate entities to take over the economy. And as it was, they didn't have as much of a window because he really pushed it and rushed it. Now you start to get into next level speculation here. Was there a different vaccine and that got switched? Slash was... I don't believe the stuff that Trump didn't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. He obviously knew. I don't know that I don't believe that that there was a different vaccine. I mean, I hold that super, super lightly. I don't really see a lot of evidence of it. There are people who got the vaccine in December and earlier in January who seem to have had symptoms, negative side effects. So I don't know. This is the only thing that's come to mind as a possible answer for now. And we'll see as time goes on. I think we should get more information. We should be able to figure things out. But what's come to mind is that if Trump needs to stay out of the polarization, if people are going to bring him back, in that actually, if Trump were to come out and as anti-vaccine, well, first off, it would seem weird because he promoted it and pushed it. But second off, if he came out against it, it would make a lot of other people in the country who don't like Trump, then, it would pull him in that other direction. Now, I would say that he just doesn't have to say anything. But I think for the most part, unless he's been asked, he hasn't really said anything. He trusted his own supporters to know not to get it. And he's trying to help us to be the ones who make the moves here. Now, I would like him to come out more anti-mandate. He doesn't have to come out even as anti-vaccine. He can say, look, if you want to get the vaccine, get it, but the mandates. I would like that. But maybe there's this element, and they hash this stuff out on supercomputers. Maybe there's a tangible element that if Trump starts to say stuff and starts to talk about it, that it becomes a problem. I think we can all agree that the less Trump talks right now, the more people like him. So, and if Trump comes out as talks about the vaccine, the benefits, it doesn't make lefties hate him more. So that kind of gets people more together because it starts to depolarize. Trump became this polarization rod. So it's all food for thought. There might be some tactical elements to it. There might also be some tactical elements with drawing the pharmaceutical companies out aggressively when they don't have really protection because of its emergency use author, because they're trying to push further and further, and that puts them in a position where they could get in trouble. It's all really speculative. I don't like it. I'm just saying that on every single thing, including the vaccine, prior to very recently, it seemed like, I see complete consistency in behavior. It is true he has a huge stake in pharmaceuticals and is raking in money from it. I think that's true. I mean, I know that they didn't back him as much as other people, but I do know that there's truth to that. However, I will say this. I mean, he's criticized Pfizer for doing boosters, and he's called it a money-raking operation. Kind of like a scam. So I think we will have the answers in time. Sometimes I don't think you should have blind faith, but what I do think you should have with people is that when you understand somebody's intention and when you understand somebody's integrity and understand what somebody's already done, right? Doesn't mean you give them a full pass, but when you understand what their fundamental goal is and objective, then you have to give them the benefit of the doubt on these things. And look, nothing that Trump says is going to persuade me to go for it. Nothing he says is going to persuade me to go for it. But there may be some grander play here, and we'll find out in time. Either way, it's a reminder that it's up for you to make decisions for yourself and to own those choices and to keep moving the ball forward. So anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure, and I will see you guys soon. As we say here with Elvis, we have Truth Social coming out in January, so that's going to be big as well. And I think Truth Social is going to be, I think it's going to be a hit. I'm optimistic on it. Anyway, see you, peeps.